Hello everyone, again this is Mr. Everett and we're going to do a quick video on how to solve equations with variables on each side. What do we mean by each side? Well, if you take the equal sign and you draw a line down, you have the left side and the right side. So you have the same variable, have an a here and an a here on each side of the equal sign. 7a plus 10, or 7 times a plus 10 is equal to 2 times a. That's what we mean by each side. Let's get started. So I'm going to do each problem two ways. I may move a little fast, but I want to cover both ways, depending on which way is easier for you. So here again we have the same problem. We have a on the right side, a on the left side. One way is you can think whenever you cross over, the sign changes. So I'm going to take my 2a, have 7a, my plus 2a becomes a minus 2a. And when I take my plus 10 over here, it becomes a minus 10. 7 minus 2 is 5a equals negative 10. I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And that gives me 5 divided by 5 is 1. And that leaves me 1a. And negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. Now this gives you the same result. It's just that I'm going to do the same thing to both sides. So I'm going to subtract 2a from both sides. It's the same process as over here. 7a minus 2a gives me 5a plus 10 equals, that's 0. Now I want to get a by itself, so I need to subtract 10 from both sides. 5a equals negative 10. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 5. A equals negative 2. In order to save time, I'm not going to check them in the video. I'm just going to solve them. Either way you go, a equals a negative 2. Next problem. 11 times x equals 24 plus 8x. And notice I like to move the smaller one. You can do it either way, but I like to avoid negative coefficients. So I have, when this goes over to this side, I have 11x minus 8x equals 24. No need to move the 24. 11x minus 8x gives you 3 times x equals 24. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. That gives me x equals 8. Same thing. If I subtract 8 from both sides, 8x from both sides, that's 0. That leaves me 24. That leaves me 3x. Divide both sides by 3. Because 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that gives me my x by itself, gives me 8. No matter how I do it, I get 8. The next problem. Now we have to move two things. So I'm going to move this 6 over here because I know in my mind that 8 minus 6 is 2. I'm going to have a positive number. You can do it either way. I like doing it this way. So this moves over here. It becomes a negative 6y. So 8y minus 6y. And this negative 3, when it comes over here, is going to become a plus 3. So I have 17 plus 3. So I have 2y is equal to 20. 2 times y is 20. The opposite or inverse of multiplication is division, because I want 2 divided by 2 is 1. That goes away. So y is equal to 10. Let's do this one. Now I'm going to subtract 6y from both sides. It's basically the same thing, just written differently. 6y minus 6y is 0. So now on my right side I have 17. 8y minus 6y is 2y. I bring down my negative 3. Now that I have my y's over here, I want to get this over there. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. It's pretty much the same thing I did over here. That goes away because that's 0. 2 times y is 20. So 2 times y is 20. The inverse would be to divide by 2. Because 2 divided by 2 is 1. That goes away. Y equals 10. Same answer. The next problem. 5p plus 2 is equal to 4p minus 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and do this a little differently to show you that it doesn't matter what you move. If I move my 5p over here, I'm going to have 4p minus 5p. And if I move this one over here, this minus 1 becomes a plus 1. So I have 2 plus 1. So now I have 3 equals a minus 5p. Now why is that minus? Because a minus 5 plus 4, I am more negative than I am positive. 1, negative 1 plus 1, 0, negative 1 plus 1, 0, negative 1 plus 1, 0, negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So 4p minus 5p gives me a negative 1p. Well, I don't want a negative right here, so now I have to divide both sides by negative 1 in order to get rid of that negative 1, because negative 1 divided by negative 1 is a positive 1. That goes away, so p is negative 3. So that's why I like to avoid having a negative number in front of my variable. So I'm going to do this over here a different way. So now I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides because 4 is smaller and I won't have a negative number. That cancels out. So now I have p plus 2 is negative 1. Now I subtract 2 from both sides and I have p equals negative 3. How did I get negative 3? Negative 1 and negative 2 is negative 3. So my answer, no matter how you do it, is negative 3. Okay, here's page 151. Now this was a little bit tricky. Now if I move this one over here, I know I'm going to have negative 6 and negative 2. It's going to give me a negative number. I don't want negative with this, with my variable. So I'm going to move this one to this side. That's going to give me 2f plus 6. And this one goes on this side. It becomes a plus 11. So I have 13 plus 11. 24 equals, I'm sorry, that's 6f equals 8 times f. I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Why? Because 8 divided by 8 gives me my 1. And I only want 1f. So I'm dividing both sides by 8. I get my 1f, my f by itself, and f is equal to 3. Let's do it here. If I add 6f, this goes away. So I have to add 6f here. And that's going to give me 8f minus 11. This 13 comes down. I want to get f by itself, so I'm going to add 11. That is 0. So now I have 8 times f, again, is 24. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 8 because I want 8 divided by 8 equals 1. That gives me 1f is 3. Okay? No matter how you do it, f must be equal to 3. And again, you can check these answers on your own. A few more here. All right, doesn't matter if you have decimals or not. You want to get your h's together. So I'm going to take this 2.5h and move it over here. That's going to give me 4h's minus 2.5h's and negative 15 here. This gives me 1.5h negative 15. I'm going to divide both sides by 1.5. And notice I always bring my equal sign straight down. Divide both sides by 1.5. Why? Because 1.5 divided by 1.5 is 1. And that gives me that 1h by itself divided by 1/2. A negative divided by a positive is going to be negative. So I know my answer is negative. And my answer is going to be 10, I believe. Let me check that on the calculator. Yes, it is 10. Okay, same idea here. I subtract 2.5h from both sides. Gives me 0 minus negative 15, I'm sorry. It's 1.5h times h. I'm going to take 1.5 times h and divide it by 1.5 because 1.5 divided by 1.5 gives me 1. Negative 15 divided by 1.5. H is 10. Okay, then we got a couple more. Whichever way you like to do it. Again, I know when this goes that side, it's going to be positive. So I'm going to move this one over here. So I get 2z plus 9z. Because that minus becomes a plus when I cross over. This minus 31 becomes a plus 31. So now I have 11z equals 55. I'm going to divide both sides by 11. And z is equal to 5. Same thing with our other method. Just like I added 9z over here, I'm going to add 9z. But remember, you can only add the z's with the z's and the constants with the constants. I can't put that 9z here because they're not like each other. So 24 comes down. 11z minus 31. Well, I want to get this z by itself, so I need to add 31. 11z is equal to 55 again. So I have 11z is equal to 55. 11 times z, divide by 11, because 11 divided by 11 gives me my 1. So z is equal to 5. All right, that was it. 14 minutes. Wanted to rush so it wouldn't take too long, but you saw both methods, and hopefully that helps you out. Take care. You got any more questions, just ask me in class.